Hello lovely lot, my name is Max and welcome back to another Nottingham Forest match preview. Today we are going to be talking about our upcoming match coming up on Saturday the 26th of February, taking on Bristol City in the Championship. I believe this one's at home. I think our last couple ones been away from home, so I think this one is at home at the City ground. It's going to be a tough fixture despite their league standing at the moment. I reckon it's going to be one of our more difficult recent games against one of the more potent goal scoring teams in the Championship at the moment. Before we do that though, I'm going to be talking briefly about the Preston match. So again, as usual, I'll leave the time code on the screen so you can skip ahead if you're not interested to hear my reaction to the match against Preston North End. And of course it goes without saying, before you watch this video, don't forget to drop a like down below and subscribe whilst you're down there. It will be greatly appreciated. The support recently has been exceptional. I cannot thank you all enough for the support shown on the channel. We passed 300 subscribers recently. We were well on the way to 500, which is the next big milestone. And if you want to show some support to the channel, that is the best way to do it. Drop a like, subscribe below, and let's get into the Preston game. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how the Preston game went for us. I think it was one of our worst performances in recent memory, certainly over the course of the last few months. Even that Cardiff game, I don't think we were quite that bad in that game compared to this one here against Preston. We could just not break them down for love or money. Their five at the back was, for my money, just so solid. It was so solid at the back. Their wing backs didn't really push up too much, so it meant that they had a lot of defensive coverage, meaning that they could really push their midfield and their strikers further up the pitch, which couldn't break them down. And they didn't really offer a huge amount in attack, but when they did, it was very effective what they did offer. They definitely frustrated us quite a lot during this game. I think we took 7 shots during that game. I think it was 4 of them came from outside the box, which suggests to me that we were just camped outside of their area. They defended really well, in fairness. Preston are underrated actually, despite the fact that they're not necessarily the best in terms of the stats. You can see why they're pushing them towards the playoffs this season, because their hero ball, that last ditch defending, is incredible in fairness. From what I can remember, the best chance we actually had during the game was pretty late on. Jed Spence getting down the wing, cutting it back from the byline in what was basically an open goal, and unfortunately there's just nobody there to tap it home. And like I say, probably the best chance that Forest had over the course of the 90 minutes. I think they took about 12-13 shots at the end, so they definitely outshot us. And I think defensively we could have been a lot better, although I do think even Hovarth had a really good game between the sticks. Obviously the suspension to Bryce Samba means that he'll probably be playing the next few games, like this game against Bristol City we'll get into in a second. And it was really good to see him have a decent performance between the sticks, keeping a clean sheet and making a couple of decent saves when he needed to. For me, the man of the match on the day was Ben Whiteman. I did mention him in the preview, so if you haven't checked out, I'll leave it in the iCard above. He had a fantastic performance on the day, completed 6 tackles, 2 interceptions, and also took the most touches on the pitch with 82, and going forward was also pretty good in that department as well, taking 2 shots and setting up 4 chances for his teammates. Although he didn't score or get an assist and he didn't actually win the game, his team didn't win the game, I do think that Ben Whiteman's performance actually was one of the best of a player against Forest I can remember in a little while actually. He was all over the pitch for them, sweeping up absolutely everything for them, and I would be surprised if nobody else in the Premier League or higher up in the Championship table didn't take a look at him, because as far as box-to-box midfielders in the Championship go, I think he's one of the best at the moment. That draw against Preston means that Nottingham Forest currently sits in 10th place in the Championship table at the time of recording, and has put a little bit of distance between ourselves and the playoffs, with it now being around 5 points to 6th place Sheffield United. It does feel slightly like Forest have lost some of that momentum that we had from sort of late December into through most of January, and it does feel like we've gone a little bit off the boil, and hopefully with a good result against Bristol City, which I think we will get, we can sort of get back on the tracks and keep pushing towards them playoff places. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Bristol City, how they're currently doing in the Championship at the moment. Well, they currently sit in 16th place in the Championship, not doing too well, not doing too badly, probably going to be safe this season, but certainly not pushing towards the playoffs like a lot of the teams are at the moment. And this comes off the back of a 2-1 loss against Coventry City late last time out. And that's really compounded a pretty poor run of form recently for Bristol City. They've only picked up 2 wins in their last 5 games, which has included 3 pretty hefty losses, which includes some pretty decent games that they probably should be winning with teams sort of in and around their area of the Championship table. Of course, they are under probably one of the most experienced head coaches in the Championship at the moment in Nigel Pearson, a man who of course guided Leicester City to the Premier League amongst his other achievements. So they're definitely in a very safe pair of hands, and I very much doubt they're going to be in a relegation scrap come the end of this season. And I think he's got the qualities to push them towards mid-table and maybe even a playoff push next season. With that out of the way, let's talk a little bit about Bristol City's season so far, how they're shaping up, how they're looking, and some of the more interesting players in their squad at the moment. Well, I would say they've got one of the nicest combinations of players in the Championship at the moment, a really experienced spine to their team, comprising the likes of Thomas Kalash, Chris Martin, Andrea Weimann, and Tim Klose, combined with a really good young core of players who could really push on and deliver some really interesting football in the next couple of seasons. This includes Antoine Semenyo, I think his name is. I'm really sorry, I've probably just butchered his name. Alex Scott, Hannoa Masengo, and Jada Silva, to mention just a few of those young players in the squad at the moment. They're definitely the ones picking up the most minutes at the moment. And they're definitely the more experienced, younger players in the squad. And it's really good to see a really nice blend of young and older players in this team at the moment. And it really just complements itself pretty well, particularly in the attack, where Bristol City are actually the 6th highest goal scorers in the Championship at the time of play, with 45 goals scored this season, which is very impressive despite their league position, and even more impressive that it's actually more than Forest this season, who have become one of the more free-scoring teams under Steve Cooper. However, it's in the defence where I would probably say I'm not being controversial that Bristol are struggling at the moment. They've conceded the 3rd most goals in the league at the time of recording with 61, and have recorded the fewest clean sheets with only 3, again at the time of recording. They're also one of the worst teams in terms of shot deficit. They're a -4 shot negative team. They only take 10.3 shots per 90, which ranks them in the bottom 3rd of the Championship, and concede 14.3 on average per 90. Again, probably putting them towards the bottom 3rd of Championship teams. A large reason for the defensive issues that they've had this season and the amount of goals that they've conceded has been their goalkeeping. First choice Daniel Bentley has played about 25 games for them this season, but his save percentage is only around 67-68%, well below the average of 70% in the Championship at the moment. And their second choice goalkeeper, who, forgive me, I don't remember his name, he played about 9 games this season as well, and he's had a save percentage down in the 40s. So it's really goalkeeper, I think, where the biggest issues are for Bristol City. So should they look to push on next season, I think this is probably the area they need to be reinvesting in. Now, we've sort of ragged on them a little bit, so I'm going to talk about some of the real positives in this team at the moment. I've got to say, Bristol City, despite their league position, have got some real gems in their squad at the moment, including, according to who scored their best player at the moment, Antoine Semenyo, got it right this time, a striker who likes to drift into the wide areas, can create chances for his teammates, but also take his own chances as well. He scored 6 goals in the league this season and also set up 8 for his teammates, taking around 2.8 shots per 90, which is the most in the Bristol City squad, and also creating 1.2 chances for his teammate, which ranks him, I believe, in the top 5. Combining this with an extremely experienced striker in the form of Andrea Weimann, who's having a bit of a career renaissance at Bristol City, who's bagged 16 goals in the league this season and is the 4th overall highest goal scorer in the Championship this season. So now we talked about the strengths, we've talked a little bit about their weaknesses as well. Let's talk about how this translates on the pitch and how they actually play and shape up under very experienced head coach Nigel Pearson. Bristol, and by an extent their manager Nigel Pearson, are pretty flexible in terms of their shape and their formations. They've rotated happily between a back 3 and a back 4 as systems, and it tends to just depend on the opposition that they're taking on. And seeing as Forest predominantly adopt a back 3, I wouldn't be surprised to see them do the same. Despite this flexibility and certain pragmatism in their style, there's definitely some continuity in their style depending on the formation. There's definitely some consistency in there. They are a team that like to be pretty direct with their opponents, whether this is through quick build-up or through long balls. They average the 20th least passes per 90 in the Championship this season, and they also do their best work probably off the ball as well, as they also rank 20th for average possession per 90. Their centre-backs, Thomas Kalash and Tim Klose in particular, are very experienced at Championship level and are pretty comfortable on the ball, being able to have a good range of passing long, passing short, with Kalash being more of the reserve defender and Tim Klose definitely being the aggressor and the more proactive of the two defenders when he starts. Just like in any modern system, their fullbacks push high and wide, especially when they're playing in a wing-back system, as the team does lack a little bit of width, particularly higher up the pitch, which, again, other than the goalkeepers, I suggest is maybe their biggest issue. They lack a lot of wide quality other than their fullbacks, but they definitely are able to contribute in attack and create chances. This allows their front players, which normally line up in a number 10 and then 2 striker system, to attack the ball from crosses. They actually sit more like 3 centre forwards and congest and overload the centre of the pitch, which I think Forest could become susceptible to in this game. We've been pretty bad from crosses this season, and I think despite the fact we're playing a back 3, that could lead to them sort of congesting the central area and being able to create some chances from there. The midfield does all the dirty work then, sort of sweeping up loose balls, winning tackles, interceptions, moving the ball upfield, progressive passes, progressive carries, all that good stuff. And the best example of this is Masengo, the central midfielder. He's pretty good for them at the moment, completing 3.5 tackles and interceptions per 90 and attempting 2.2 dribbles per 90 as well, with about a 68% success rate, which is pretty good by championship standards. I would suggest in terms of players to watch, despite how good Semenyo has been this season, how good Weiman's been this season, I would quite like to watch him and just see how he plays for Bristol against us. I think he's probably going to be their more mercurial and interesting player in their squad. So I'd definitely take a look at him, and I do think his potential, his ceiling, is a little bit higher than Bristol City. Again, like a couple of the players in the squad, I wouldn't be surprised if other championship teams or lower end Premier League teams had sniffed around him in the summer window. So how are Forest actually going to be able to get at this Bristol City team? Well, the one thing they do lack, particularly in their defence, is pace, and I do think that's something we have in absolute buckets, particularly up front, and I think this is the best way we can really attack them, use the pace we have in the wide areas, either in the half space or in the real wide areas with Jed Spence, Maxwell out wide. You've then got Brennan Johnson and probably Phillips Zinchenko playing as those wide number 10s in the half space. The pace that we possess in those areas could really cause some issues for this Bristol City team. Get my words out again, I'm absolutely mad with some of this stuff today. Obviously, I don't think I'm being particularly controversial here when I suggest there's going to be quite a lot of goals in this game. Bristol City are, I believe, the 6th highest scorers. I think that's what I said earlier, in the league with 45 goals, and have conceded over 60. So there's definitely going to be goals in this game. It's just whether they go in our end or their end. I think with the 5th best defence in the league at the moment that we possess, it's probably going to be at their end. I think we're good enough to edge past them. Like I mentioned in the Preston game, I think if you put a 1 to 11 of players from our team and their team, I think the majority of the players would come from Nottingham Forest. That being said, I think that front 3 of Martin, Semenyo and Andrea Weimann could really cause some issues to our back 3, especially if we end up having to go to a man marking system, because they're so fluid in the way they rotate around each other, and I could see potentially some mistakes happening in there, conceding some sloppy shots. So it's going to be whether Ethan Hovarth is going to be able to reliably stop these sort of sloppy efforts being conceded in terms of goalkeeping. Defensively, Bristol are actually pretty poor from set pieces as well. They've conceded 10 goals this season, which puts them 4th in terms of most goals conceded from set pieces this season. So this could be another avenue of attack for Forest. We've got quite a big physical and strong team at the moment. I think it would be a real disappointment if we didn't try and exploit this weakness in their game. So overall, to conclude, I think this is going to be a challenge, but I do think Forest have got the quality to get past the Robins in this game. Like I said, defensively they are just far too porous, and I think going forward, whilst they're very good, I think defensively we are going to be absolutely solid as a rock for this one, particularly after a really well-earned clean sheet against Preston last time out. I'm going to go with a 3-1 win for Nottingham Forest on the day. I do think it'll be too hard for us to keep a clean sheet. I just think they've got too much attacking quality for that. That being said, their defence is awful. It's a shambles at the moment, or whatever. They're conceding a lot of goals, buckets of goals at the moment. And I do think that we have so much quality up front. I can see Keenan Davis maybe bagging 1 or 2, maybe Sam Surridge off the bench, and I can really see Brennan and Jed Spence down that right-hand side really causing havoc, particularly when their wing-backs push high and wide in attacking phases and we're able to catch them on transition. But as always, let me know in the comment section down below what you think the scoreline is going to be and who you think the star player for Nottingham Forest is going to be. And let me know also what you think of some of these Bristol City players I've highlighted ahead of the game. I think they've got some real hidden gems in terms of championship quality. Masengo, Semenyo, definitely 2 players to watch in this game who could definitely do some bits later down the line for other teams. And of course, whilst you're down there, don't forget to drop a like down there and subscribe to the channel as well. It would be greatly appreciated. Turn on notifications as well so you don't miss a single match preview. We don't play, I don't think, until next weekend after this game, so I've got something a little bit different lined up for the midweek video coming next week. I'm going to be doing a tier list. I'm not going to get into any spoilers for it, but it's going to be a Nottingham Forest related tier list, so stay tuned to your sub boxes for that. With that being said though, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the game, enjoy your weekend. I will catch you later.